Hey there. Passion Week. It's something that had to occur. Everything leads up to it and culminates in the resurrection. Okay? When I was a young girl, I didn't really think about Passion Week. I mean, I knew about Easter and what that was, and I knew Jesus died on the cross, but I wasn't a believer, and, people got dressed up. They had a nice dinner. Dinner was sometimes earlier because it was a big dinner. You might have had special foods, that kind of thing. When I became a young teen and I became a believer, then it became more real to me. And I realized Jesus died for me. And if I was the only person, he would have died for me. Not only that, but my faith was alive because he rose again. And so then I really appreciated Easter, and I knew how important it was, so much. So, but then, like 20 years ago or something, I just started thinking about all the details that happened during the week. So many details, perfectly planned, years and years and years and years ahead. It just was amazing. And then the more you grow in your faith, I think you see more things about the week. And the more you study all four Gospels, the more you see things about the week. And so there's no way in 15 minutes we're going to be able to share everything that happens during the week. So I'm just going to do an overview really quick. So I'm going to kind of breeze through it, but there's a point to it. So it'll be just a reminder for you this week, as you think about Easter, what it all entailed and how carefully God planned the whole thing, okay? So I'm just going to run through things really quick. And the term passion is used to refer to a period of trials and suffering that Jesus experienced. And it began being called that in the early 1300s. So it's been called that for a while. So it's a term. And I don't know how we got the word passion for all the other things we think it has to do with. But this is what I didn't do a word study on the whole thing. But that's why we call it Passion Week. And even before Palm Sunday takes place, things were starting to happen. 2 months before is when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. And that, is another reason for leaders to want to kill him. And so they kind of stayed away from Jerusalem till it was time to go for the Passover. So they kind of stayed away because they knew that would cause an uproar. The donkey, I just keep thinking, the donkey's and the donkey's baby, right? And why is there two? Well, if Zechariah where it tells us he's going to ride in on a donkey's colt, then, he wants the mom to come too. God thinks of all the little details for things. And Jesus was David's descendant, becoming king of the Jews forever. And this is found in Zechariah 9. And he's riding into Jerusalem. And it's kind of an unmistakable fulfillment of God's word, declaring he is the rightful successor of the king. And riding on a donkey was kind of a symbol of meekness. I mean, people expected Jesus, the Messiah, to come and overthrow Rome. They thought it was all about overthrowing Rome. And it was so much more than Rome. So much of a bigger thing than Rome. Jesus enters the city from the east. And the Romans' procession that they were going to do for Passover is coming in from the west. So that's another little detail that was planned for a reason. On Monday, they returned to Bethany, and it was kind of a place where Jesus gained his strength. And he needed time to pray. And it was, you have that time during the day or a place that you can go, whether I'm an outside person, nature kind of refuels me. I don't know what refuels you, but, they go to Bethany as their resting place rather than being in the hubbub of Passover week and thousands of people all together. Tuesday, they went into the city early, and they didn't end up going back to Bethany till late. So they spent the day, and a lot of things happened that day. We can't get into all of them, but it's the last day that they're at the temple also. But he had a lot of run-ins with the Pharisees. It was the cleansing of the temple with the money, and a lot of just other little things happened, and it was just fueling things more and more. So many things happened that day. You should go to the Gospels and look at different things. Bottom line was the leaders were trying to discredit him. So all these things that were happening, they're like, oh, they're really worried about what he's doing. And they knew that the people were really, really impressed with him. Wednesday, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm recovering from something. Wednesday, the record is silent. Day of rest and prayer, probably after their big Tuesday and before Thursday. Thursday, the upper room and the washing the disciples' feet and just the humbleness. And it was a lesson in greatness. Love's always willing to serve, and to follow in Jesus' footsteps meant you needed to love, and you needed to take action on that love and do something for others. And it's love as a service, and also we're constantly cleansing our life and helping others and acting out in love. They take communion, and there's a little bit of argument in some things and who's most important. And we also find out who the betrayer is. And then there's the time in the garden. They go to the garden and the disciples fall asleep. Jesus goes off to pray, it says he's sweating blood because of the stress. It's just so intense of his prayer. And he comes back and he finds him asleep. I just wanted to read you from Luke, chapter 22. Let's see. He withdrew from them just a stone's throw away, and he knelt down and began to pray, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me, yet not my will, but thine be done. Now an angel from heaven appeared to him, strengthening him, and being in agony, he was praying very fervently, and his sweat became like drops of blood falling down upon the ground. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping from sorrow, and said to them, Why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation. And also earlier, I was thinking of this one part of this in verses 31-32. Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded permission to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail, and you, once you have turned again, strengthen your brothers. I think, I think that, Jesus obviously knew what was going to happen to the disciples. Everyone but John's martyred. It dies. And, they don't know what's coming up, but he loves them so much. And he prays for them, and he just loves them so much. And I think, hopes for their sakes that they are strong enough, and he will make them strong. And after the garden is Jesus' arrest. They're in the garden, the soldiers come, and the disciples, everyone but Peter, take off. They kind of flip out. Well, Peter's kind of flipped out too. He cuts off the guard's ear. Jesus puts it back on. But he follows Jesus. He kind of hangs back and kind of follows Jesus. He's so concerned. What happens? Jesus told him that he'd deny him 3 times, and then crowing 3 times, and he denies him. And then Peter goes off and weeps. And, I think we feel really bold for Christ, and it's hard to know. There's so many people being persecuted right now. It's kind of hard to know what we would do, push come to shove, with what would happen. But God gives people strength when they need it. And the leaders know that Jesus has this large following, and they don't want to be the person who's against Jesus. So after he's arrested, he's kind of passed around from person to person, because they're like, we don't want any part of him. Send him to so-and-so. It's not my responsibility. And they just kind of go back and forth because they know this is a really big deal. And then the people who were just cheering for Jesus just a few days prior, all of a sudden they just turn against him. And he's chosen to be crucified. And then he's crucified. And the guards had made fun of him. They just mocked him, and the whole thing was hard. And then the thief on the cross, Jesus says, even today you'll be in paradise with me. And then when he knew things were over, then he takes the vinegar that they offer him, and he says it is finished. And there was an earthquake, and the veil was torn. But the veil wasn't torn, like you would think it would be. It was torn not this way, but this way. And like no one could have torn it. And just little details like that is amazing. On Saturday, the tomb was sealed. They put guards in front, like not just like 2 guards, but like a whole bunch. You always see in movies and different things that there was 2 guards. But if you study about it, I think it was like 16 guards. They wanted to make sure no one could claim that he was gone, that somebody would come and take. They didn't want any false claims being made. And so Sunday, the tomb was empty. We don't have time enough to discuss everything. But, Jesus greets people. He meets with his disciples again. And then there's Pentecost after that. But during Passion Week, it's just packed with all these different things. And I guess the thing I wanted to think of this week is we had talked about why we would care about leading our loved ones to Christ, or people we met to Christ. We talked about mentoring. And what are those things that fuel that passion within us, if we use it that way, the word that way? And, those things, it's because of this. It's because of Passion Week and what happens before Easter. And without Easter, and without Jesus raising from the dead, it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't matter that he died if he wasn't real and alive and living. And I just wanted each of us to just think about these details. And I wanted to tell you that if you have not accepted Christ as your Savior, and some of this doesn't make sense to you, this is the time. You just need to really pray about it. God tells us that if we accept Christ, that he died and that he rose again, that we'll be saved. And he'll forgive you and love you, and you can live forever with him, eternity. And I pray that if you have any questions about this, you can send me a message. I'd love to talk with you. And I just pray that as you get together with your family and friends this week for different activities, and you have that special time with them, and you have this wonderful meal, and you have kids or grandkids over, that you think about these things. And you think about how carefully, from the details of the donkey to the veil, if you think about all the little details and how they fit together, and how God planned this for us, and that we can know more about that. And if you study all four Gospels, the three are more similar in some ways. They have more direct quotes, and then John's is a little more different. But they all tell the story, and they just come at it from different perspectives because they're written by different people. But if you study those and just read those over, maybe even this time of year, read them through every March and April. Just make it a goal, and then it will just put that in your heart more on what this is all about, because this is the crux of everything. This is what we share with others, and I just pray that you can study it and learn more about Jesus and who he is, and how much he loves you, and how much he wants us to share our faith with others. I hope that you have a great Passion Week this week, and I'll see you next week. God bless.